Ubisoft's got a problem. This week we got a 3-minute deep dive story trailer for Star Wars Outlaws, an upcoming action-adventure game set in the Star Wars universe. Players jump into the shoes of Kay Vess, this Han Solo-style character who's trying to get one last score to escape that scoundrel lifestyle in the galaxy's underbelly for good. She's also got this little cat-like companion Nyx to add a pet flavor to the mix of characters. Very cool. Right off the bat, this game has a lot going for it. It's an entirely new story set in the Star Wars universe with some key cameos in the trailers already, like a freeze-dried Han Solo and Jabba the Hutt, one of the faction leaders that's actually going to play a big role in the game. But it's also coming from a studio that's built up a solid reputation over the years. Massive Entertainment is one of Ubisoft's premier teams, behind games like The Division and Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. In the realm of Ubisoft games, they're putting out some of the best games in the lineup. Even with a handful of flaws scattered in the latest showing, the trailer has been ratioed on YouTube with a whopping 127,000 dislikes compared to 35,000 likes. That's a more than 3-to-1 dislike to like ratio. Now surely some of these reactions reflect what people think about the story, characters, and gameplay that was shown off in the trailer, but Star Wars Outlaws and Ubisoft itself have other issues that are on players' minds. As with any major AAA release, Star Wars Outlaws base game is going to launch at $70, but Gold and Ultimate editions of the game kick up the price to $110 and $130 respectively, granting players early access to the game, cosmetic DLC, and a Season Pass with an exclusive mission for Season Pass owners that's going to be available on day one. Oh, and you get a digital art book with the $130 version too, so I'm sure you're going to sit there and take in that beauty for hours. Now there's a lot to break down here. First, 3-day early access for a single-player game is completely worthless unless you're someone with the patience of an 8-year-old kid during the holidays. Early access periods for competitive shooters like Call of Duty give hardcore players the opportunity to get ahead and start climbing the leaderboards and getting a feel for the game before the general population drops in. For a single-player game like Star Wars Outlaws, this just means you get to start playing the game 72 hours earlier, with no tangible benefit other than just knowing what happens in the story before everyone else. Second, there's the price itself. A $40 increase from the base game to the Gold Edition is a pretty steep jump. The total price of the Ultimate Edition, what most people would call the complete version of the game, is almost double the price of the standard version. And both of these fancy editions have questionable value at best. The perks include a handful of different cosmetics for Vess and Nyx and their weapons and vehicles, but you also get that Season Pass content, which ultimately comes down to a couple of other cosmetics, one extra mission at launch, and the promise of 2 other DLCs coming at some point in the future. But hey, at least you can play that single extra mission 3 days early. Now speaking of that extra mission included in the Season Pass, it's called Jabba's Gambit, clearly a mission that features Jabba the Hutt and will have some of that Star Wars fanfare that fans of the movies, TV shows, and games are all going to be clamoring to dive in and try. In the grand scheme of things, one single mission locked behind a Season Pass isn't going to make or break the overall experience that most people have with the game. If the base game can stand on its own without this mission, then it's not like it's going to be a main mission with a pivotal plot point. But even so, people are understandably upset and disappointed that the developers are clearly carving out a mission from the base game and locking it to the Season Pass, or, at launch, the more expensive versions of the game. Now, all of these are issues with Star Wars Outlaws and the way that they're selling the game, but none of these problems matter compared to the issue that Ubisoft should really be focusing on: its reputation. Even just glancing at some of the top comments on this video, it's clear that the reaction to this trailer is less of a reaction to the game and more of a reaction to the company that's making it. She has a higher microtransaction count than even Master Yoda, a reference to Ubisoft's history of packing their games with cosmetic packs, in-game currencies, and season passes scattered across every different edition of the game. Someone else suggests the game is going to be removed from players' libraries in 12 years, referencing this week's issue where Ubisoft is revoking player licenses for the crew because its servers are being shut down. Not removed from storefronts from purchase, completely revoked and removed from people's libraries. And somehow that situation got even worse. For PC players, the crew now sits in an inactive games library with a pop-up that reads, "You no longer have access to this game. Why not check the store to pursue your adventures?" Which brings up another major point in the comments, the idea of people not owning their games. Recently, Ubisoft's director of subscriptions sat down with GamesIndustry.biz to talk about their strategy and suggested that gamers should get comfortable with not owning their games in the same way that the music and movie industries largely shifted to digital purchases and streaming. Now sure, physical media is dying and digital content is the future of this industry, but completely revoking licenses for games and making them inaccessible doesn't exactly give me hope for the future of my digital library, let alone the future in general. Looking past the business side of this conversation, Ubisoft has a reputation of making games that are good, but that might not be great. And even when they do stick the landing and release a great game like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it generally gets the reputation of only being good, Because it's made by Ubisoft. Ubisoft has become known for some iconic series: Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, The Division, Ghost Recon. These are some significant names in gaming. But over the years, the developers of each of these series have found a core gameplay loop and pretty much stuck to it without much variation. For Assassin's Creed and Far Cry, it's almost become a meme to talk about climbing towers to unlock areas of a map. For The Division and Ghost Recon, they both evolved into a series of missions with a wash, rinse, and repeat gameplay cycle that keeps the grind moving without too much variation. While none of these games or series are inherently bad, Ubisoft has built this reputation in the community for creating games that feel like they lack meaningful innovation, that are packed with microtransactions, and that will have their prices slashed within a month or two of even being on the market. Whether they're good games or not, Ubisoft is the poster boy for Black Friday sales. What this all comes down to is that a great concept for a game like Star Wars Outlaws is held back by the company that's making it, and the only way that changes is if the company itself changes, which to their credit does seem to be the case. Assassin's Creed is shaking things up with different gameplay styles and storylines. Games like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown and The Rogue Prince of Persia are bringing new life to an older series. Skull and Bones. Anyways, Assassin's Creed looks pretty good now. But now that they're getting more variety into the catalog, it's time for Ubisoft to reevaluate those revenue models and explore ways to support their operations that don't rely on slicing and dicing games into season passes and ultimate editions that are mainly selling the promise of future DLC. Ubisoft games are packed with potential, and they can make great games. They just need to get out of their own way. But that's just my 2 cents on the whole situation, and as always, I'd love to know what you think down below. What do you think about Star Wars Outlaws? How do you feel about all these different versions of the game? And do you think Ubisoft is moving in the right direction, or maybe going the other way? And of course, if you're new to the channel and you like what you see or what you hear, hit that subscribe button for videos like this every week and gaming news shorts throughout the week to keep you in the loop, and I'll catch you on the next one.